The Essence of Bhagavad Gita by Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj. Introduction. The Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, was spoken by Sri Krishna to his disciple and friend Arjuna over 5,000 years ago, just before the beginning of the epic Mahabharata war. Since that time, seekers of sacred wisdom have turned to Bhagavad Gita for answers to the most profound mysteries of life. The material in this book was taken from lectures on the confidential meanings of the Bhagavad Gita, given by one of the most prominent spiritual authorities of the modern era, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj. He is a fully realized spiritual master in the Gaudiya Vaishnav disciplic succession, extant since the time of Lord Krishna himself. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj has been teaching the ancient science of Krishna consciousness for over 60 years. In these talks, Srila Narayana Maharaj reveals truths of the Bhagavad Gita that have been carefully maintained and handed down in an unbroken succession of self-realized spiritual teachers for the last 5,000 years. The eminent 19th century saint and scholar Srila Satchidanand Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said in his explanation of the Gita, when the supremely compassionate Lord Sri Krishna, whose vows are infallible, spoke Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he seemed to be directing his words at his friend Arjuna. Actually, however, he manifested the scripture for the deliverance of the whole world. It is the very form of deep reflection on the essential meanings of all the Vedas, and it is the sole means of attaining the highest goal. Citing Sri Krishna's own words in Bhagavad Gita to establish pure love and devotion to God as the topmost goal of all spiritual seekers, Srila Narayana Maharaj explains the journey of the soul towards the ultimate level of spiritual consciousness. Of all the verses in Bhagavad Gita, the most revealing is in the final chapter where Sri Krishna says, "Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your respects unto me. Thus you will certainly come to me. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend." Bhagavad Gita 18.65. In this verse are 4 distinct instructions which offer devotees of different eligibilities the opportunity to connect with the Lord in perfect loving service. Srila Narayana Maharaj brings the subject to life through enchanting tales from the lives of real devotees, some quite famous and others virtually unknown. The common theme is the extraordinary connection they experience with the Lord by the bestowal of His sweet, unlimited compassion and mercy. It is the sincere hope and prayer of the editors that by hearing these wonderful deliberations, all may find inspiration and guidance in their own sacred calling. On behalf of the many devotees serving in Gaudiya Vedanta publications, we offer this publication to Srila Gurudeva, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, praying that he be pleased with our efforts. Humbly in the service of Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas, Bhaktivedanta Vaikhanas Maharaj, Sri Radha Ashtami, 8th September 2008, Bangalore, India. Chapter 1. Man Mana Bhava. Always think of me. The scriptures describe many spiritual places, but in the entire universe, there is no place like Vrindavana. Sri Krishna and his eternal associates perform pastimes there that are unique. One who knows the glories of Vrindavana will understand this, especially if he has received the mercy of Vrindavan. The instructions of the Bhagavad Gita serve as a foundation for understanding these things, and upon this foundation is the palace of Srimad Bhagavatam with its 12 floors. or 12 cantos. If the foundation of Bhagavad Gita is not there, we will only be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam in a mundane way, and everything will be ruined. In the Gita 18.65, we find this verse: Man manabhav mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mam evashyasi satyam te, pratijane priyo asime. Absorb your consciousness in me, become my devotee, by dedicating yourself to such practices as hearing about and glorifying my names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Worship me and offer obeisances to me. Thus, you will certainly attain me. This truth I swear to you, because you are most dear to me. Of all the verses in the Bhagavad Gita, this is the best. It is even better than the verse that comes after it, that is 18.66, in which Krishna says, Sarva dharmana parityajya, give up all forms of religiosity and come exclusively to my shelter. I will free you from all the sinful reactions. Do not fear. Although this is the final verse and Krishna is telling us to abandon our dharma, that is, religious and worldly duties, we may think that some sinful reaction may come to us. But Krishna says, I am responsible for that. I will excuse you from all sins, whether it is making our parents or brothers and relatives cry, or it is a wife making her husband cry, or a husband making his wife cry, not doing our duty to society, and not following varnashram dharma. These are all adharma, irreligious actions, and sinful reaction will come to anyone who does these things. But Krishna says, I promise that I will at once free you from any sinful reaction. The verse that we will describe here, Man Mana Bhava, is even better than this verse. The verse Sarva Dharmana Parityajya gives instruction for Sharanagati, how to surrender to God. But this verse gives the fruit of that surrender and is therefore even more exalted. When we read Bhagavad Gita thoroughly and look through the commentaries of the illustrious spiritual teachers in our line, we see that there are 5 levels of instructions. First, there are general instructions for everyone. After this, secret instructions, that is Guhya. Then more secret, that is Guhyatara. Then most secret, that is Guhyatama. And finally, the most secret of all secrets, that is Sarva Guhyatama. These instructions are not given in an expanded form, but in the form of condensed verses. Sarvo Upnishado Gavo, Dogdha Gopal Nandana, Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta, Dugdam Gita Mamritam Mahat. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Mahatmya 5. All the scriptures, the Vedas, Puranas, Upanishads, are like a cow, and Arjuna is the calf. First, the cow feeds a little milk to her calf, and she becomes happy by that. Then, the milkman, Sri Krishna, milks the cows and keeps the remainder of the milk aside. Who is the remainder for? It is for those whose intelligence is pure. Whose intelligence is pure? Is the intelligence of the great scientists and scholars of this world pure? The Bhagavatam doesn't say this. It says that the truly intelligent person is one who performs Bhagavad Bhajan, worship of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, and who is expert in relishing the liquid mellows of devotion to the Lord. One who has understood that engaging in Bhagavad Bhajan is the essence of life is purely intelligent. After the cow has first fed her calf a little milk, Krishna keeps the remainder in a pot for those that are of pure intelligence, who are dear to him. General instructions. For ordinary people, Bhagwan Sri Krishna has said, Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chaitasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Bhagavad Gita 6:17. Don't eat or sleep too much and be regulated in working and recreation. Otherwise, you will not be able to attain that rare yoga wherein a soul meets his Creator. In this verse, he has given the general knowledge that we are not these bodies. Be detached from the desires of the body and don't act for them. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha, tasmad apariharyarthe, na tvam shochitam arhasi. Bhagavad Gita 2:27. For one who is born, death is certain, and for one who has died, birth is certain. Therefore, it is not proper for you to grieve for that which is unavoidable. Arjuna was crying for everyone, for his son, wife, relatives, friends, and we are also crying for our relatives and friends. Ashochanya anavashochasa tvam pragyavadanshcha bhashase gatasun agatasunascha na anya shochanti panditaha. Bhagavad Gita 2:11. Those who are wise despair neither for the living nor the dead. Everyone will die, and those that don't go today will go tomorrow or the next day. Don't cry or worry for them, because inside the body is the soul. Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dahti pavakaha, na chayanam kletyantyaapo, na shoshyati marutaha. Bhagavad Gita 2:23. The soul can never be pierced by any weapon, nor burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor dried by the wind. The soul is eternal, but the body is subject to death, so don't be overly concerned about the body. In what way should one be concerned for the body? When one is enlightened, one can realize that Bhagwan has given this body in the form of a temple for the purpose of performing worship of him. Therefore, it should be cared for. We should keep it clean and repair it, otherwise we won't be able to do bhajan or worship. To this extent, caring for the body is all right, but it should be done with a spirit of detachment. In the end, Bhagwan will ask for it back, and it must be returned. He will ask, I have given you such a rare and valuable human form, and what have you done with it? Thus, he has spoken verses like this. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam, tasyam jagriti sanyami, yasyam jagriti bhutani, sa nisha pashyato munehe. Bhagavad Gita 2:69. While ordinary people sleep, the sage is awake in self-realization, and while the sage sleeps, ordinary people are awake in sense gratification. Therefore, you should simply engage in Bhagavad Bhajan, and considering happiness and distress to be the same, go on doing your duty. Up to this point, it is general instruction. The secret instruction. After this comes Guhya, secret instruction, which is knowledge of spirit. The soul is Brahman, its true nature is spirit. Arjun Uvacha. Sthit pragyasya ka bhasha, samadhisthasya keshava, sthitadhi kim prabhashit, kim asit vrajet kim. Bhagavad Gita 2:54. Arjuna said, O Keshava, what are the symptoms of a person whose intelligence is fixed in samadhi? How does he speak? How does he sit? And how does he walk? In the 18th chapter, the conclusion is given. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Bhagavad Gita 18.54. One who is situated in Brahman sees spirit everywhere and thinks, I am also Brahman. These thoughts will help him to meditate on Brahman, and he will not experience happiness or distress. He remains steady throughout whatever comes to him and merges his consciousness in Brahman. Karamanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Bhagavad Gita 2:47. Sri Krishna says, "Go on doing your duty and don't desire the fruits of your labor." In a basic way, this is Brahma Jnana, knowledge of our spiritual nature. More secret instructions. After this comes Guhyatar, a more secret instruction, which is Paramatma Jnana, knowledge of the Super Soul. There are two classes of beings, fallible and infallible. Beyond these two classes is the Super Soul, an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who resides in the hearts of all the living entities. Meditate on Him, and if you don't reach Him, try again. If you fail to reach Him, try again. Klesho adhik tarastesham, avyakt asakta chetasam, avyakt hi gatir dukkham, dehevad bhir avapyate. Bhagavad Gita 12:5. Krishna tells Arjuna, that formless Brahman that I mentioned to you before, don't go there. Beware. There will be more difficulty in trying to attach your consciousness to something formless. Instead, meditate on the Super Soul within the heart. One who connects with Him is a real renunciate or sannyasi and a real yogi. Anashritaha karam phalam. Karyam karma karoti yaha. Sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. Na niragnir na chakriyaha. Bhagavad Gita 6.1. Those who perform their prescribed activities without desiring the results of their actions are actual sannyasis and yogis. Those who simply cease performing fire sacrifices, such as the Agni Hotra Yagna, are not sannyasis, and those who merely give up all bodily activities are not yogis. One does not become a real sannyasi just by performing fire sacrifices or by muttering, "I am Brahman." This is all more secret instruction. The most secret and the most secret of all. And Guhyatama, most secret, is given in the 9th chapter. Pure devotion or bhakti is given there. But it is devoid of knowledge of the transcendental loving relationships and exchanges or rasa between the Lord and His devotees. Although it is pure bhakti, it is not full of rasa. At the end of the 18th chapter, the most secret of all secrets, Sarva Guhyatama, is given. It is full of rasa and is the highest limit of bhakti. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha Shruну me Paramam Vachaha Ishto Asi me Dridam iti Tato Vakshami Te Hitam. Man mana bhav mat bhakto mat tyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vashyasi satyam te pratijane priyo asi me. Bhagavad Gita 18.64 and 65. Because you're very dear to me, I'm telling you this most confidential of all instructions. What is that instruction? Prior to this, Sri Krishna had explained the worship of Bhagwan with awareness of his opulence. This is worship of the Lord in his form as Narayana. However, in this verse, 4 extraordinary activities are described. The first is Man Mana Bhava, always think of me. The second is Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. The third is Madhyaji, worship me. And the fourth is Mam Namaskuru, offer obeisances to me. If you cannot do the first, then do the second. If you can't do that, then do the third. If you can't do that, then just offer obeisances, and everything will follow from that. Absorb your mind and heart in me. Now we will speak on the first part of the verse, Man Mana Bhava. Absorb your mind and heart in me. This is not a simple thing. If you want to absorb the mind in any one activity, we must fix our eyes, ears, nose, and all our senses on it. If the mind cannot concentrate on something, it is more or less uncontrolled. Sometimes our mind is contemplating sense enjoyment, and sometimes we think about Krishna. This is the conditioned state. The highest form of worship is to fully absorb the mind in the lotus feet of Bhagwan, Sri Krishna. When will this be possible? In the beginning stage of faith, that is Shraddha, it is not possible. Then the stage of spiritual taste for devotional practice, Ruchi, will come. And still, it won't be possible. In the stage of spiritual attachment, Asakti, we can give perhaps 1/2 of our heart to Him. In the stage of devotional ecstasy, Bhav, maybe we can give 3/4 of our heart to Him. It is only in the stage of pure divine love, Prema, that we can fully give our hearts to Krishna. The gopis, cow-herd damsels of Vrindavan, have set the ideal example of absorption in Krishna. They are Krishna's topmost devotees, and their love for him is unparalleled. After Krishna had left Vrindavan, he sent his very intimate friend Uddhava to console the gopis. Krishna told Uddhava, "When you get to Vrindavan, you will meet the gopis who are most dear to me. They have given their hearts to me completely, and they know nothing besides me. They have even forgotten all of their bodily needs and functions." What is the condition of someone who has forgotten all bodily needs? They have forgotten eating, drinking, bathing, decorating themselves with ornaments and clothing, and arranging their hair. Their bodies will certainly become thin and weak. In their love for me, they have forgotten all of their body relations, their husbands, sons, friends, brothers, wealth and property. They have no love for anyone but me. Day and night, they are deeply remembering me. Uddhava, in this world, you have not seen such an example of one person giving their heart to another. Somehow or other, the gopis are holding on to their lives. How much longer can they live like this? I don't know if they can be saved or not. Therefore, go quickly and save their lives. Give them my message. I am definitely coming to Vrindavan tomorrow or the next day. For this, they are holding on to their lives. They will think, Krishna has said that he is coming, and he cannot tell a lie. Clutching onto this hope, it is as if their lives are hanging on a delicate tree limb. If the limb breaks, they will fall and give up their lives. So, go quickly. The gopis are the perfect example of absorbing the mind and heart in Krishna, Man Mana Bhava. We understand that giving our heart to someone is very difficult. But if someone takes our heart, then it becomes very easy. Otherwise, we are simply unable to give our hearts. In Katha Upanishad 1-23, it is said, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo, na medhaya na bahuna shrutena, ya me vaish vranute tena labhyas, tasyesha atma vivrunate tanum swam. Krishna reveals himself only to whom he chooses. Only that person can realize him, no one else. Being pleased with that person's attitude of service, Krishna manifests his own form. Sri Krishna will select a heart that is dear to him and then say, "Come, I will take your heart." Even if we really desire to give our heart to Krishna, it is very difficult. But if he desires to take our heart, then it is possible. But we must make our heart such that when Krishna sees us, it will inspire greed within him. The heart must be pure in all ways. If there is any impurity remaining there, he will not take it. However, mere purity is also not sufficient, for many jnanis or spiritual philosophers also have hearts that are pure. We must add some special fragrance that will attract Krishna. Bhakti Rasa, the ecstatic moods of transcendental service in direct relationship to Krishna, should be flowing in the heart. That is why the gopis of Vrindavan are so dear to Krishna. Their hearts are full of this bhakti rasa. Stealing the heart. How does Krishna take a heart? This story will show how. Krishna would take the cows out to graze for the day in the forests of Vrindavan. His complexion was the color of a dark rain cloud, and his curly black hair dangled around his face. He appeared very beautiful and charming. His friends were spread out in the four directions chanting Sadhu, Sadhu, which would mean excellent, excellent. They were praising Krishna and singing and playing their flutes and horns. Even the blind people of Vraja would come out to try and see Krishna and his friends as they celebrated. Someone would ask, "Where are you going?" Another would reply, "I'm going to see Krishna. Take my hand, let's go." And with great eagerness, they would go. All the people of Vraja surrounded the road to see Krishna, taking the cows out to graze. Krishna's parents, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, were following behind him, saying, "My son, come back soon. Don't go too far away." Time and again Krishna requested them to go back to their home. Finally, when he promised that he would return later in the day, they slowly went back to their homes. There were many newly married girls who had just arrived in Vraja to live in the homes of their husbands. They all went to the doors of their houses to catch a glimpse of Krishna. Some peered through the windows, some climbed up on the roofs, and others climbed to the top of the trees in the nearby groves. Krishna was also searching. He always wanted to see the new girls. In one house there was a new girl who had just been married 2 or 3 days before. She had heard how beautiful Krishna appears when he takes the cows out to graze. When she heard he was coming with the cows, her heart became very restless and eager to see him. But her new mother-in-law and sister-in-law were sitting outside the door. Her sister-in-law was especially harsh towards her. They were telling her, "You are not going. We are going, but you cannot. There is a black snake out there, and if it bites you, you will never be able to remove its poison. Therefore, stay in the house. We will be back soon." The girl said, "You are going, and you say that I should just sit here in the house? I will also go." "No, it's dangerous. Don't go. Your heart is very immature, and you will never be able to remove the snake's poison. You just sit here." "Nevertheless, I will go with you." "No, it's dangerous. You won't go." "Then I will go alone." All the wives, elderly people, boys, girls, birds, beasts, and insects of Vraja are going to see Krishna. And in all of Vrindavan, only I will not be allowed to see him? Certainly, I will go. "No, you won't." "I am most certainly going. Even if you throw me out of this household, I will go." Then, seeing that Krishna was coming near, the mother-in-law and sister-in-law quickly ran to see him. When they left, the girl stepped forward and began peering out through the crack in the door. Her position was such that she could see out, but no one could see her. Krishna was holding the flute to his lips and playing so sweetly it seemed that the nectar of his heart was emanating through the holes of the flute and inundating the entire area of Vrindavan. Those eyes which have not seen Krishna in this way are useless. Only the eyes which have seen this beautiful scene are successful. The gopis were worshipping Krishna with their eyes. How? Their eyes were like lamps, and the pure love in their hearts was like the oil. Their eyes were burning as they circled Krishna's form with loving, sidelong glances, and they performed worship of Krishna with these glances. With great happiness, Krishna became shy and accepted all of them. At the same time, he was looking in the direction of that new girl behind the door. Krishna may or may not want to see someone, but if someone really wants to see him, he will reciprocate with that person. That day, he wanted to see that new girl first of all. He wanted to leave everyone else behind and go there immediately. So, he played a trick using one of his calves. Grabbing the tail of the calf, he gave it a twist, and the calf ran directly to the girl's door, as if it had been trained for that very purpose. At once Krishna and the calf arrived at the door, standing in his threefold bending posture with the flute to his lips and smiling. He gave his audience to that girl. Finished, her very heart came out from her, and he took it and went on his way. She could only stand motionlessly. This is taking a heart, man mana bhava. If someone attains the mercy of Krishna, then certainly he will take their heart. If we are specially eager, wondering in our minds, when will I be able to see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna, then Krishna will be so pleased and come and take our hearts. That girl had performed austerities for millions of years for this opportunity, and that day she became completely successful. She was left standing motionlessly. 15 or 20 minutes passed since Krishna had left and entered the forest. The dust raised by the boys and their cows had long settled. The girl was still standing motionlessly because without her heart or mind, she was helpless. Then the cruel sister-in-law said to her, "The black snake Sham Sundara has bitten you, and now you will never be able to remove the poison." Shaking the girl, she somehow managed to bring her inside the house. "Here, take this churning stick and churn some yogurt. By doing some hard work, your mind will return to you." But the girl took the wrong pot and instead began churning mustard seeds. It made a terrible noise. Sometimes she would churn and sometimes she would stop. Where was her mind and heart? Krishna had taken them. Man mana bhava. Again the sister-in-law came and said, "What are you doing? I will complain to my mother about you." At once the mother-in-law came and said, "Lift up this pot, go and bring water." They placed a large pot on her head, and on top of that a smaller pot. They also gave her a small child and said, "Look after this child and see that he doesn't cry." They put a long rope in her hand to lower the pots down into the well and sent her off. And so she went. When she arrived at the well, she made a noose for lowering the pot down into the well. But instead of wrapping the noose around the pot, she placed it around the child, as if she was going to lower him into the well. Everyone nearby shouted, "Hey, what are you doing?" They came running over and took the rope from her hands, saving the child. One gopi said, "It appears that a ghost has possessed her." Another gopi, who knew everything, said, "It wasn't just an ordinary ghost, it was the ghost of Nanda." Vrindavan is the place for those who are unable to give their hearts to their children and family. They leave everyone crying for them and like refugees come to Vrindavan and cry exclusively for Krishna. Even very fine sons and daughters of kings came to Vrindavan to give their hearts to Krishna and engage in bhajan. Krishna told Arjuna, "This is man mana bhav, absorb your mind in me," as the gopis did. Arjuna replied, "My lord, this is a battlefield. How is it possible for me to give my heart here? You told me to fight against grandfather Bhishma, Dronacharya and Karna. I am unable to do it." Next, he will explain Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. Chapter 2, Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. In the last chapter, we explained the best and most secret verse of Bhagavad Gita. Using examples, we explained the meaning of Man Mana Bhava, absorb your mind always in thinking of me. Krishna gave this instruction to Arjuna on a battlefield. We are also in the midst of a battle. We are at war with the tendencies of the mind, which is restless by nature. There was a war going on between the Pandavas and Kauravas in Kurukshetra. The instruction to absorb the mind in Krishna, Man Mana Bhava, was difficult for Arjuna at that time. It is also just as difficult for us now. The Pandavas' army consisted of 7 large military divisions called Akshaunis, and the Kauravas' army consisted of 11. Opposing us is also an army of 11 Akshaunis, but we are alone. Krishna was the driver of Arjuna's chariot, but our driver is bad and deformed intelligence. Arjuna had a chariot given to him by the demigod Agni that could not be burnt or destroyed. But what kind of chariot do we have? We have only our material body, which is subject to disease and death. Arjuna had the Gandiva bow for fighting, but what do we have? We have no help. Such is our position of weakness. Who was sitting on the flag of his chariot? Hanuman. Arjuna had all kinds of help, but his mind became disturbed and he said, My Lord, I am unable to absorb my mind in thinking only of you. The body is our chariot, the soul its passenger, and the mind is its charioteer. What is the nature of the mind? Restless. It gives us no help at all. By its direction, we will fall down or stray from the path. At first, with hands folded together, Arjuna said, Shishyaste aham shadi mam tvam prapannam. Bhagavad Gita 2.7. In all ways I am now surrendered unto you. As you instruct me, I will do. He heard all of Krishna's instructions and then said, I am unable to do this man mana bhava. How will I absorb my mind in this way? It is not possible. Many powerful warriors have gathered here to fight against us. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Duryodhan and Dushasana. Opposing us also are 6 powerful warriors. What are they? They are the urges of speech, the tongue, the stomach, the genitals, the uncontrolled mind and anger. We cannot conquer even one of these warriors. Even such exalted personalities as Vishwamitra and Narada were affected by one of these foes, the sexual urge. Besides these urges, we have to contend with countless sinful desires and unwanted impurities in the heart. Therefore, Krishna said, Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. Arjuna considered and said, saying one will become a devotee is easy, but to actually do it is very difficult. To become a devotee, one thing is specially necessary. Anya abhilashita shunyam, Gyan karmadi anavritam, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam, bhaktir uttama. Sri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.1.11. Srila Rupa Goswami has instructed us, devotional service should be devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Sri Krishna. It should not be covered by knowledge and activity for material gain. In order to attain bhakti, service to Sri Krishna or service to his pure devotees, one should not have any type of material desire. There cannot be a scent of any separate desire in the heart. What to speak of the desire itself? There cannot be even a scent of it. There are to be no tendencies of jnana, the cultivation of knowledge directed towards impersonal liberation, or karma, fruitive activity. There is no apparent contradiction here. We are told that we must not have any tendency towards material activity or accumulating knowledge. The difficulty is that no one can live without activity. We must eat and wear clothing to protect ourselves from the cold. We are performing some material activity even when we are asleep. Breathing, changing position, and dreaming are all material activities. We cannot live for even one moment without performing some sort of activity, and anyone who says that he can is a pretender. The question is, how will we ensure that activity is not material and does not cover our bhakti? The solution is to perform our activity for the pleasure of Bhagwan. Then it will not cover bhakti. For example, when we are eating, we shouldn't forget the Lord. Rather, we should first cook and offer the food for His pleasure and then eat the remnants with honor in order to maintain our bodies for His service. In our present condition, we are also unable to live without knowledge. Knowledge is necessary, because without it, we will not even know where to place our feet while walking, and we will fall down. Although knowledge and material activity will remain, they must be kept in a position of servitude to bhakti. Otherwise, our bhakti will become covered. We can do this by engaging our knowledge and activity in Krishna's service. For instance, we can go to the market and bring good quality fruits and vegetables for the service of the deity. He will accept the offerings and give mercy to everyone. Acting in this way will increase our bhakti instead of covering it. On the other hand, if we act for our own enjoyment, everything is spoiled, even if we offer the results of our activity to Krishna. This action will cover our bhakti, so we must be aware of this. For example, we may first bring first-class ingredients such as best milk, pure cow's ghee and coconut and make a very beautiful sweet with silver topping. It is somewhat proper to make this preparation thinking, I have made this. I collected the necessary funds and brought the ingredients. I will offer it to Bhagwan and then enjoy it. This way of expressing devotion is not completely pure. Food or anything else should not be offered only after preparing it. Rather, it should be offered to Bhagwan from the very beginning. Yag arthat karmano anyatra, Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Your action should be a sacrifice for Bhagwan. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita 9.27. Whatever you eat or drink should be for sacrifice. Yat karosi yad ashnasi yat juhasi dadasi yat tapasyasi konte tat kurushva mad arpanam. Whatever you eat, if you prepare food, if you perform a sacrifice, if you are keeping a garden, all should be an offering to the deity. In general, the spiritually inclined people of this world are offering only the results of their activities to Bhagwan. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the teachers in our Gaudiya line have taught, don't do things in this way. Be careful. You will be trapped. Rather, we should first offer our very selves to the deity. I am yours. Then, whatever we eat or do will automatically be for Bhagwan. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pad Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Punsa Arpita Vishnu Bhaktischain Navlakshana Kriyate Bhagvat Adha Tanmanye Adhitam Uttamam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5, 23 and 24. If devotional activities are performed and the results are offered to Bhagwan afterwards, then it is devotion mixed with personal desire. It is not pure bhakti. The people of this world generally don't know this, but pure devotees understand the shortcomings in this mentality. We should first offer our very selves and not simply the results of our activities. It is like a small boy eating. while sitting in the lap of his father. When the boy sees some food, he puts it into his mouth, and some into the mouth of his father, and the father is pleased. Why? The boy is fully dependent on him. Even if he punishes the boy would never leave him. In order to develop a relationship like this with Bhagwan, we first offer everything to our Guru, because in our present condition, he is to be seen as Bhagwan. When we develop a direct relationship with Bhagwan, then there will be no necessity of formal offerings. The gopis are eating and decorating themselves, but they do not make any formal offerings to Krishna. They are using many good quality things in the course of dressing and decorating themselves and applying their ornaments. But who is it all for? Whatever they do is for the pleasure of Krishna. As soon as something comes to them, it is automatically for Krishna. In this way, we should do everything exclusively for the pleasure of Krishna. Such singular undivided devotion or bhakti is difficult to attain, and it requires that we have some spiritual merit from our previous lives. And if in this birth, by the mercy of Bhagwan and his devotees, we have been graced with the company of highly advanced devotees, then pure bhakti can come. The story of Bilvamangal Thakur. The story of Bilvamangal Thakur nicely illustrates this point. Although he had accumulated spiritual merit from his previous lives, some specific desires for material enjoyment still remained in his heart. He kept company with the prostitute Chintamani and underwent all sorts of difficulties and dangers to visit her. One stormy night, in order to cross the flooded river to get to her place on the other side, he used a floating corpse, thinking it was a log. While trying to climb up to her window, he grabbed a deadly snake, taking it as a wine. However, she had become exclusively devoted to Lord Krishna, and she rejected and rebuked him. After that, he resolved to renounce worldly pleasures and pursue a spiritual path. Having a great desire to meet Krishna, he left his home and began heading towards Vrindavana. Perhaps 5 days later, he stopped at a well to get some water. There, he saw a young girl who gave him some water to drink. But he forgot about drinking the water and began gazing at her. He followed her to her home, and there a Brahmana came to the door thinking, "Why has this great personality come?" Bilvamangal asked, "Who is the girl that lives here?" The Brahmana replied, "She is my wife." Bilvamangal said, "Call her, I want to speak with her a little." So he called her, and when she came, Bilvamangal asked her, "Please give me both of your hairpins." The Brahmin and his wife thought, "He is a traveling mendicant. Perhaps he has a thorn or splinter in his foot that he wants to remove." They gave him the hairpins. He did have a thorn he wanted to remove, but that thorn was in his heart, and he was unable to reach it. He took the hairpins and plucked out his eye. There is a saying in Hindi that means, "If there is no bamboo, there will be no flute." These eyes can be the root cause of our attachment to this world. The form of a woman attracts a man. The form of a man attracts a woman. And for each other, they are personification of Maya or illusion. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures have warned us to be very careful about this. Bilvamangal, now blind, continued on his journey to Vrindavan. He was in such a mood of deep separation from Krishna that all of his senses were centered on Bhagwan. On the way, there were many obstacles such as mud holes and streams, but he was undeterred in his determination. He meditated deeply on Krishna as he made his way towards Vrindavan. Then, one day, a young boy came to him and said in a sweet voice, "Baba, where are you going?" Being pleased, Bilvamangal replied, "My son, I'm going to Vrindavan. Where are you going?" "I'm also going to Vrindavan. I make my living there." "Vrindavan? Then come with me and hold my walking stick." They went off together, and wandering they arrived in Vrindavan, the eternal home of the Lord. On the way, what happened? Inside his heart, Bilvamangal experienced so many realizations about Krishna that were just like nectar. During his journey, he composed and sang beautiful poetry in praise of the Lord. Just to hear these enchanting songs of love, Krishna himself came as that young boy and personally led his devotee by the hand to Vrindavan. Krishna personally cares for his devotees. The following story illustrates how Krishna cares for those who have really become his devotees. There was a Brahmana devotee of Krishna who had read many scriptures and many commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He read Gita every day, and while reading, many spiritual sentiments would arise within him. He wrote down his realizations and desired to publish them so that ordinary people would be able to easily understand them. In this way, he was engaged in bhajan. From the beginning, he never took any employment. He would only beg for 1 hour each day, and the rest of the time he would study the scriptures and hear and chant Krishna's holy names, glories, and pastimes. The Brahmin and his wife were very content together, living on whatever Bhagwan gave them. They had no material desires at all. They only read the Gita and contemplated spiritual topics. In the early afternoon, when most people took their main meal of the day, he went begging. His wife prepared whatever he collected, and the couple subsisted solely on that. His wife had only one piece of clothing. One day, having no cloth of his own, the Brahmana took his wife's cloth and tore enough from it to cover himself, so that he could go out and beg. Before going out, he had been writing down the meaning of Gita verses one after the another. Then he came upon this verse. Ananya aschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Bhagavad Gita 9:22. He began to analyze this verse. Ananyascha chintayanto mamaha, those whose minds are fully self-controlled and have no other object of meditation besides Krishna. Ye janha paryupasate, one who worships Krishna in all ways, especially by the medium of hearing and chanting, becomes situated very near to him. Tesham nityabhiyuktanam, for those who are fixed in performing bhajan like this, then its result also is for the happiness of Krishna, not for themselves. Even if a person of bad conduct engages in this type of exclusive bhajan, then Krishna will accept him. And if that exclusive sentiment is not there, then Krishna will never reveal himself. This verse is related to the preliminary practice of devotion or sadhana, not the stage of perfection. To those who have exclusively taken shelter of Krishna, he is their protector and maintainer. Besides him, there is no other. This Brahman's nature was very humble and surrendered. While studying this verse, many nice sentiments arose within his heart. Then he came to the last line of the verse, Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Krishna is saying that for his devotees who engage in bhajan in this way, he will supply all of their requirements such as food and water, and even collect them and carry them himself. The Brahmin stopped and thought, how can this be? This is not right. I am now an old man, over 70 years old. Up until today, Bhagwan has never directly looked after us like this. We have been engaged in exclusive bhajan, and today there is not a single mouse in our home. Why? because there is no food in the house. We don't even have any earthen pots to catch the rainwater. There is nothing in our home, not even any foodstuffs for today's meal. I will go out to beg, and whatever I acquire, we will take only that. Isn't Bhagwan seeing this? Is he not inside all souls witnessing everything? Certainly, he hasn't taken care of us as he is saying in this verse. Maybe, if he requires something, he would inspire another person to come and help us. But he would never carry a burden for us on his own head. I cannot accept this. He took a red pen and scratched this verse out, thinking, it is not possible for Krishna to have spoken this verse. Someone else must have inserted it. Then he went begging, thinking, Krishna will carry what we require on his own body. Perhaps would inspire a king or some wealthy man to come and help us. But he wouldn't carry anything on his own head. The all-knowing and all-powerful Lord, I have heard that he made the poor Brahmin Sudama into a king, but he didn't physically carry any burden for him. I have never heard this. He put it out of his mind and went on begging. Wandering and wandering, 3 o'clock passed, and he still hadn't collected a single thing. At one house, the owner said to him, Baba, I'm sorry, but our house is impure. For 3 days we cannot give anything because one of our family members has just died. It was the same wherever he went. So, after some time, he started for home empty-handed. Meanwhile, at his home, what was happening? A beautiful young boy with dark complexion and wearing yellow cloth arrived at the gate carrying a long stick on his shoulders, with a bag of goods on each end. In one bag was rice, dal, ghee and spices, and the other sugar, vegetables and different things. He did not appear strong enough to carry it all. He was young, perhaps only 14 years old, and his limbs were very delicate. He was perspiring, and arriving at the gate, he called out, "O mother, O wife of my Guru, please open the door." The Brahmin's wife replied, "What? My husband has no disciples?" The boy replied, Yes, it is possible. I am a disciple of your husband." She thought, "What is this? Where has he come from?" She was unable to open the door because she didn't even have enough clothing to properly cover herself. But Krishna understood everything, so he handed his own shawl through the door for her to wear. He said, "Mother, Guruji has sent me. We have obtained all of these things today. He grabbed me and sent me here, saying that he will be coming soon. I asked him to please wait a minute so I could get a drink of water, but he said, 'No, you can drink water later. Go immediately to my home.' He could see that I am such a young boy, still he loaded all of this on me and sent me here." Hearing this, the Brahmin's wife began to weep and thought, "Such a tender young boy, and he is perspiring as well. Doesn't this Brahmin have any mercy? He himself will come empty-handed after loading everything on this poor boy. He has no mercy." Showing her his bag, the boy said, "Mother, he has also scratched me with his nails. Oh, it looks like it will bleed." She took him on her lap and said, "My son, when he comes, I will give him a good talking to. He poses as a big, self-controlled devotee, but he cannot even show mercy to a child. My dear son, please come inside." She brought him inside and said, "Sit here and I will prepare something. You will not leave here without being fed." She went to the kitchen and began to prepare the rice, dal and vegetables that he had brought. Then there was a knock at the door. The Brahmana had arrived. "Open the door," he said. Very annoyed, the Brahmin's wife went to the door and said, "Have you brought anything? You have come empty-handed. You loaded everything on that poor boy and then scratched him with your nails. Don't you have even a little mercy?" The Brahmin replied, "What are you talking about? You know very well That boy you sent here loaded up with everything you collected? Who? I don't know anything about this. You loaded it all on the poor child, and you have brought nothing yourself? Where is he then? Come inside and see. They went inside the house, but the boy was nowhere to be seen. They searched the entire house, and all they found was a thread of yellow cloth where he had been sitting. After searching and not finding him, the Brahmin took his Gita in his hands and opened it, discovering that the red ink with which he crossed out the verse was no longer there. He began weeping bitterly and said, "Today, for us, see how Bhagwan has personally carried our burden. This is our evidence. My doubt is now dispelled." This is Bhakti, and an example of this practice or sadhan that produces Bhakti. Arjuna said, "My Lord, to do this here on this battlefield would be very difficult. I could not do man manabhav, and I also cannot do mad bhakto. Please tell me a method that is simple, straight, and easy." Next, the Lord will explain Madhyaji, worship me. Chapter 3, Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru, worship me and offer obeisances to me. Sarvaguhyattamam bhuyah shruну me paramam vachah ishto asi me dridham iti tato bhakshami te hitam man manabhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evashyasi satyam te pratijane priyo asi me. Bhagavad Gita 18.64 and 65. Again hear my supreme instruction, the most confidential of all knowledge. You are extremely dear to me, and therefore I am speaking this for your benefit. Absorb your consciousness in me, become my devotee by dedicating yourself to such practices as hearing about and glorifying my names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Worship me and offer obeisances to me. Thus you will certainly attain me. This truth I swear to you, because you are most dear to me. Here, the word Parama means the supreme essence of all the scriptures. If one is not surrendered by his mind, body, and words to the feet of spiritual master and Bhagwan, then Krishna will not reveal these truths to him. How must we surrender to the Guru? As it says in the Gita, Tadvidhi pranipaten pariprashnena sevaya updekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. Bhagavad Gita 4.34. One who approaches the Guru with these three tendencies, submission, pranipatena, relevant inquiry, pariprashnena, and sincere service, sevaya, is qualified to understand this knowledge. If someone approaches the Guru and demands answer to his questions, or if he doesn't attentively listen to the answers and has to ask the same questions again, then the Guru will only give him superficial instructions. He will not give Sarva Guhyatam, the most hidden knowledge. Concerning this, Krishna has taken a vow that anyone whose heart has not yet been purified by austerities, who is not surrendered, and who has not served Guru and Vaishnavas, the essential knowledge of the Gita will not be given. First, Krishna told Arjuna to perform sacrifice. Yag arthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha. Bhagavad Gita 3.9. For humanity, all actions other than those selflessly offered to Sri Vishnu are a cause of bondage to this world. After that, the Lord gave knowledge of Brahman, and then knowledge of the Supersoul, Paramatma. Try to meditate on the form of Vishnu, who is the size of a thumb inside your heart. Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam sa me yukta tamo mataha. Bhagavad Gita 6.47. He also constantly performs bhajan of me with full faith, his mind incessantly attached to me. is, in my opinion, the topmost of all yogis. Up to here, Krishna has not revealed his ultimate form. He has only recommended that we should be inclined towards the supersoul within the heart, that is Paramatma. Then, at the end of the Gita, he gives the verse that we are discussing, Man Mana Bhava. When he says that we should always think of him, to whom is he referring? Shama Sundara, who has very, very beautiful hair and on whose head the peacock feather is always present. He who is standing in his threefold bending posture under a kadamba tree in a grove of Vrindavan. He who is holding the flute to his beautiful lips with the nectar of his heart pouring out from the holes of the flute. We should always think of this Krishna, who has not revealed this form in the Gita until this verse. We have given the example of the gopis to explain what is meant by absorbing the mind in Krishna. In relation to becoming Krishna's devotee, we explained about chanting, hearing, remembering, and so on. And we looked at how some great devotees perform regulated devotional service. It may be somewhat possible to absorb the mind in Krishna at the stage of devotional ecstasy, but it is only at the stage of fully developed transcendental love that we can really think of Krishna always. It is very rare that someone will reach the stage of ecstatic love. In the process of becoming a devotee, Mad Bhakto, first there is a development of faith, then firmly established practice, followed by awakening of transcendental taste, then a deepening transcendental attachment, and finally ecstatic love. At this point, it can be said that one has truly become a devotee and can actually begin to think of Krishna. Next, Krishna says, Mad Yaji. Yaji means yajan or sacrifice. If one has not yet developed any real love for Bhagwan, but has just a little faith, then he can perform yajna. This sacrifice is a remedy for material entanglement. A verse concerning this is found in the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rai Ramananda in Sri Chaitanya Charita Amrit, Madhya Leela, verse 8.69. The deity may be worshipped with 16 kinds of paraphernalia, or with 12 kinds, or with 5 kinds. But if there is no love in the worship, Bhagwan will never be satisfied. When hunger and thirst are present, then food and water are tasteful. Food will only be tasteful to the degree that there is hunger. If we are not hungry and someone serves us some nicely prepared vegetables, we will say indifferently, "Oh, what have you made?" Then tasting it, we will say, "There is not enough salt in it," or "There is too much salt." We will consider the sweet rice to be too thin, the chapati to be out of shape, and rasgulla to be flat, not round, as it should be. But if we are hungry, we may take a stale chapati, add some water, and perhaps squeeze a lemon on it, and consider that it is very tasteful. If you are hungry, then food will be tasteful. Similarly, if a devotee has no love, then Bhagwan will not be hungry and will not be satisfied by the devotee's worship. If Bhagwan is made hungry by a devotee's pure love or prema, then whether there have been 16 kinds of paraphernalia used or only one kind, he will accept it. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhaktya upaharitam ashnami prayat atmanaha. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. Krishna says here that if one simply offers him a leaf, a flower, some fruit or water with love, he will accept it. Whatever is offered with love, he will accept. In a devotee's heart, there should always be this love that creates hunger in Krishna. There is one point here that we must understand. We should not be thinking, why is this offering for the pleasure of the Lord? Ultimately, it is for our own happiness. In the Bhagavatam 1.2.6, it is said, Save punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahetukya apratihata yayatma samprasidati. The supreme dharma for human society is pure devotion to Adhokshaja, the transcendental person. This devotion must be free of ulterior motives and practiced constantly to completely satisfy the self. In this verse, Bhagwan Sri Krishna is the one to be pleased, and if he is satisfied, our worship is successful. If we have performed an activity for our own pleasure, we can understand that it is only done out of lust. There is one point to consider here. If Bhagwan is pleased, then the individual devotee automatically becomes satisfied and happy as well. However, worship offered for our own interests is not pure bhakti, but devotion with selfish motives. We must understand this point well. No desire for our own pleasure should remain, otherwise the worship becomes impure. Most householders pray when they are performing deity worship. O Lord, I offer the fruit of all my activities to you. But what is it really for? I just desire the happiness and peace of myself and my family. We should not offer deity worship with such ulterior desires. Krishna protects his devotees' vow. We have given an example from the scriptures. Now, we will tell a story from our own experience here in Mathura. From it, we can see how we should have love and attachment for our puja or worship and the object of our worship, Sri Krishna. There was a man who was worshipping a Shaligram Shila, a deity form of the Lord. He didn't know all of the mantras and finer details of puja, but in an ordinary way, he was going on with his service. His vow was that by 4 o'clock every morning, he would return home from bathing in the river Yamuna and bring some Yamuna water to use for his puja and for applying his tilak. He would not use any water except Yamuna water, and with great faith, he performed his puja without deviation for 10 or 15 years. Then, one new moon night, in the month of Magha, January to February, a very strong wind was blowing and it was raining severely for the entire night. The water of the Yamuna had risen and was flowing very fiercely near Vishrama-ghat, a public bathing place in Mathura, where he would usually bathe and collect his water. He was shivering from the cold. It was approximately 3 o'clock in the morning, but he wasn't sure of the time. In those days in Mathura, hardly anyone wore wristwatches. People would simply look to see the position of the stars and in this way estimate the time. But on this night, the stars could not be seen due to the dense clouds. After bathing in the Yamuna, it was so dark and the rain so heavy that he became lost and could not make out the way to his home. He was in great anxiety about protecting his vow, thinking, "How will I make it home? What shall I do?" Just then, he saw a small boy coming towards him. The boy had a large bag on his head, folded over twice to protect him from the rain. And he was carrying a lantern in his hand. In a very sweet voice, he asked the man, "Baba, where are you going?" The man told him the name of his street and his house number, and the boy replied, "Yes, I know that place. I am going near there. Come, I will show you the way." The man placed his faith in the boy and they went off together. On the way, the boy didn't say anything at all, and the man thought to himself, "Why has this young boy come out on a night like this?" Shivering, he continued following the boy until he turned and said, "Baba, here is your street. Your house is up that way. I'm going onward." The man began walking towards his house, but then some doubt arose in his mind, and he turned and looked in the direction of the boy, but he didn't see the boy or his light. Putting his hand to his head, he began to repent. "To protect my vow, Bhagwan came in that dress, holding a lantern to show me the way? This is true worship. We should have this kind of firm determination with no consideration of our own happiness or unhappiness. This is real spiritual hunger. And if we perform puja with this hunger, with this prema, then will Bhagwan not accept it? Therefore, Krishna says, Prayat Atmanaha, Bhagavad Gita 9.26. If anyone simply offers him something with faith and love, he will certainly accept it. Sometimes our Gurudeva reprimands us when we are serving him, and we become upset thinking, Guruji used to be so affectionate to me, but now he is treating me like this. I will leave him. This is wrong, and we shouldn't think in this way. Many difficulties will come to test us in our service to our Gurudeva, but our resolution should be, birth after birth, I will never leave my Gurudeva or my Lord. There is another story related to puja and service to the deity. There was a Brahmin who was performing deity worship, and after completing the puja, he would make an offering of food. For this, he would receive some wages. If he first received payment, he would perform the puja, but if he didn't receive any wages, he wouldn't do it. So, what was his real motive? In Bihar and Bengal, there are such professional priests who travel from house to house. They receive only uncooked food for the puja, such as rice, vegetable and fruit, and some flowers and clothing also. They then show these items to the deity, complete the puja, and then stash all of the items in their clothing. They go to a great many houses doing puja like this, and at the end of the day, they look to see how much I have collected, and then return home. So this Brahmin would only perform puja wherever he could earn his wages. Once, when he was going away for a couple of days, he lovingly called his son and said, My dear son, every day after bathing our household deity, make the offering of food. The boy had not learned much about puja, but still he replied, I will do as you ask. Later, while his mother was preparing chapatis and vegetables, the boy bathed the deity with Ganges water and tulasi leaves, and after dressing him, he placed the deity back on his altar. Next, he placed the chapatis and vegetables before the deity, and, carefully placing a tulasi leaf on each preparation, said, My Lord, please take your meal now. I don't know all of the appropriate mantras, but you please eat. I will remain standing here. He stood there for some time and then earnestly said, My Lord, Thakurji, I have been standing here for nearly half an hour now, and looking at your plate, I see that you still have not eaten. When my father offers you food, you eat it with great delight in only 3 or 4 minutes. But just because I don't know the mantras, you're not eating? Will you remain hungry just because my father is not there? Then I also will not eat. As long as you don't eat, I will also not take anything. With great love and sincerity, he was saying this. If this sentiment is not in our chanting of the mantra, then the mantra will never be effective. The mantra is meant to awaken this sentiment within us, and if we are serving the deity without this sentiment, then how will he ever accept what we offer? After waiting a few moments more, the boy said, O Lord, you will not eat? Then I will go to sleep without eating or drinking. Then Bhagwan could no longer restrain himself. He leapt down from his altar, took his seat and ate the offering with both hands. He didn't leave anything whatsoever on the plate, and he was very pleased. The boy took the empty plate back to the kitchen and said, Mother, Bhagwan has finished eating. With great difficulty, I finally got him to accept the offering. The boy's mother said, What do you mean? He ate it? Where have the chapatis gone? Where are the vegetables? He ate them. He ate them? How is it possible? The next day the boy fed Bhagwan in the same way, and the following day the father returned home. His wife said to him, For 2 nights we have gone to sleep without eating or drinking anything. Why? The Brahmin asked. Thakurji has eaten everything that was offered to him. Thakurji has eaten? How? The Brahmin did not have faith that the deity was actually eating the offerings made by his son. After some deliberation, the Brahmin called his son and said, "My dear son, a rat must have taken the offerings. They especially like to make their homes under the old altars like we have here. With great comfort, he is living and is easily getting whatever he needs to eat, and he is also getting plenty of ghee to drink." But his son insisted, "No, Thakurji has eaten it all." All right, tonight you make the offering again." That night, unknown to his son, the Brahmin hid nearby while his son was making the offering to see if the deity was really eating or not. The boy said, "Lord, don't be late. Please come quickly and take your meal." But the deity stayed in his place. So the boy said, "Lord, why are you not eating? Have you become shy? Why? What has happened?" Then softly a voice came, "Today your father is watching from over there. Therefore I will not come." The boy replied, "Why? You must come and eat. If you don't eat, I'll be very unhappy." Then the deity said, "Go over and simply touch your father." The boy did so, and at that time, the boy's pure spiritual sentiment arose within the heart of his father, and then the Brahmin could see how the deity was actually eating the offering. This is the necessary sentiment for performing puja. If there is no such sentiment, no such faith, then there is no qualification for puja. Therefore, Krishna says in 9.26 in Bhagavad Gita, "Patram pushpam phalam toyam, yo me bhaktya prayachati, tad aham bhaktya upaharitam, ashnami prayatatmanaha." If any pure-hearted devotee offers me a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water with love and affection, I will surely accept that gift. Offer obeisances to me. Arjun said, "My Lord, it is not possible for me to do this type of worship here on this battlefield. Please tell me an even easier way." Then Krishna said, "You need something easier? Then Mam Namaskuru. Just offer obeisances to me. Not just any obeisances, but the meaning of the word Namaskara is offering it sincerely, without any false ego. Sarva dharmana parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Give up all kinds of religion and just surrender exclusively to me. Taking this instruction to the heart, we should offer obeisances to Krishna. For one who offers namaskara to Krishna like this just once, it is as if he has jumped into a vast body of water, which is the ocean of material existence, and then looks back and sees that he has already crossed over it. One will not enter the cycle of birth and death again. One will no longer be forced into the womb of a mother if he has offered obeisances to Krishna just once with exclusive surrender. This is the meaning of Mam Namaskuru. So Arjun said, "My Lord, I offer obeisances to you not just once, but hundreds of times." In this verse, Krishna says, "Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. Man Mana Bhava, absorbing your mind and heart in me, engage in bhajan unto me. At the end of that bhajan, Madhyaji, worship me, and after performing puja, offer prostrated obeisances to me." Now all of the 4 activities described in this verse have become one. With great faith, sentiment and love, sincerely follow all the limbs of bhakti and offer your namaskar to Bhagwan Sri Krishna. This is Sarvaguhyatamam, the most hidden treasure, and the supreme instruction of Bhagavad Gita. If anyone earnestly follows just this one verse, they will certainly cross over the ocean of material existence and attain exclusive prema at the feet of Sri Krishna. In condensed form, this verse of the Gita is showing us how to attain highest bhakti like Krishna's devotee in Vrindavan. Then, in Srimad Bhagavatam, this conception is described more elaborately. Therefore, the beginning book is Bhagavad Gita, and we should never disrespect the Gita in any way. The instructions in it should serve as the foundation upon which we will construct a palace of bhakti, wherein we will perform puja to Sri Radha and Krishna with great love. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita.